Hi guys. I wanted to do some cooking stuff back a long time ago on my channel, but I just never have got to do anything for cooking. So I wanted to come share a kind of chicken that I make, and it's so good, so good. Now this can be baked or fried, depending on, or broiled, depending on, of course, what you want to do. But you'll just need to get your chicken breast. I mean, it's no particular kind of chicken breast. I sometimes use Walmart, sometimes I use IGA, sometimes I use Kroger, so it's all up to you and what you decide that you want to do. What I do first, I usually actually like to put mine in the oven, like I'm baking it, but of course you can do it on top of the stove too. So today I'm doing on top of the stove, and I don't know how to do with my lid, so makeshift. I'm using aluminum foil, which just of course keeps the moisture in, keeps your chicken moist, keeps it so that all of your juices are staying in it and just sitting there festering instead of coming out of the chicken from evaporation and being cooked out from the heat. So there are several things that I put in my chicken when I am cooking it. So I will show you. Okay, so this is, a lot of people call it butter, margarine. Either way, either one will work. Next, you will want some lemon juice, garlic powder, seasoned salt, lemon pepper, and then just regular salt and pepper if you choose to use it. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, depending on how much salt and I've had in my diet that day. Regular pepper's fine. The salt I use depending on how much I've consumed that day. Now, next you want to put all of the spices and the margarine or butter in the pan before you put the chicken in it. If your chicken is frozen, it's going to take quite a bit longer. If it's thawed, of course, it's not going to take nearly as long. So, once you put your chicken in the pan or pot, whatever you're cooking it in, once you put it in there, you want to sprinkle the spices that I mentioned a moment ago back on top of the chicken. So you're going to have a layer under and a layer over to make sure it gets enough of your spices. Now next, after I've done all of that, I take and cut up an onion and a green pepper. Now sometimes I use green, red, and yellow peppers. It all depends on how I'm feeling, what I want to put in it. Green pepper. And the green pepper I put either half or whole. So if I just use half of it, of course I put the other half back in the refrigerator to use at a later time. And then if I use the whole one, of course there's nothing to put back. So once you get all that cut up and you get everything put into your pot and you let it cook a few minutes, it's gonna look like this. All that good moisture. Now, for the amounts that you put in it, for the margarine, butter, I usually put around, depending on how fatty I want to be that day, I usually put between 3 tablespoons and half a stick. So, depending on how fatty you want to be that day. Now, for the lemon juice, I like to make a light coating on the bottom. So, on the bottom of my pan, I just pour it into the pan until the entire bottom is covered with moisture. So if you put it in, when you put the spices in the bottom, you can see that it's going to make all those spices moist at the bottom, which is exactly what you want. So I like to let the butter and the lemon juice cook for just a minute before I put the chicken in there. So you'll let it soak up, you'll let the butter and the lemon juice soak in the spices. I like to let them for about 10 minutes before I put the chicken in. Now, if the chicken is frozen, it's not going to matter much. If it's not frozen, you have to make sure that you let it sit in there for about 10 minutes before you put the chicken in, because it will scorch the bottom of your chicken sometimes, depending on how high you have the heat. My heat, I like to leave about halfway. Okay. Now, if you are cooking on a stove that has the number notches, I like to cook between 5 and 6. That'll give you the heat you need to cook the chicken and get everything where it needs to be, but it's not going to scorch your chicken, which is really, really big. With cooking chicken, I found that the longer you let it cook, as long as you keep it moist, of course, the longer you let it cook, the softer it's going to get. And I love soft chicken. I love mine being very moist. So, anyway, that's one of the types of chicken that I make. I thought I would come share it with you. It's not like anything special, but it's one of my favorite ways to make chicken. The cooking of the chicken can be anywhere from 1 to 2 hours, depending on how slow you cook it and if it is frozen before, of course, you start cooking it. It's a little different if you cook it in the stove, but like I said, just keep an eye on it. You will notice that your chicken gets more tender as it cooks. You want to keep an eye on the level of the lemon juice and the margarine or butter, whatever you're cooking in. You want to make sure you keep an eye on that level, because if it gets too low, then of course you're going to have some issues, multiple issues. It's going to scorch or send to the bottom of your chicken, and it could also do the same for your onions and your peppers. So keep an eye on that. Make sure it stays very, very moist. That's also why I have this layer of aluminum foil down over my chicken, because I don't know what I did with my lid, but I don't have any others to fit it. So to keep the moisture in while it's cooking, I like to put the tin foil on top since I can't find my lid. But anyway, let me show you how moist the chicken is so far. Okay. So you'll see it's relatively easy for me to push the fork into the chicken, but it's still not moist enough to pull apart. Okay. Like I said, with mine, I like my chicken to be very, very soft. I like it to melt in your mouth. So I'm going to continue to check on this every 15 minutes or so and see what it looks like at that point, because I want my chicken falling apart in your mouth. I don't want it to be kind of tough. So I just wanted to share that with you. That's one of my ways to make chicken. Of course, I'm going to be making some steamed veggies, carrots and broccoli and stuff later for a side, whenever my chicken gets a little more done. But Anyway, I just wanted to come let you guys know that there's all different kinds of ways to make food, especially chicken. This is a little less healthy because I do use so much margarine or butter, but it's my favorite way. So, what's your favorite way to eat chicken? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys very soon. Stay beautiful, stay lifted.